Hello, welcome back to the Talking Joe podcast. How have you been? It's been a while since I last spoke here and you last listened to me. How has life been treating you? I hope you've been soaring through the tides and waves of life as easily as it can be, because the fight comes every single day. Today I had a thought. I experienced something interesting, and while pondering about it, two things came to mind. It's a short story, but just flow with me. Last week Friday, I attended the Valedictory service. That's what's called of my very first set of class students. So when I started teaching a few years ago, the first class of students I was assigned to, I like to call them my community. My community, they were in JSS 2 when I picked them up, and from JSS 2 we bonded till now. So they just finished writing the West African examination certificate exams this year. So essentially they were leaving the school. So the school head, the Valedictory, said it's for them in their honor a week ago. Now, during that event, I have been gone away from them for like a while. So they were not expecting me to show up. And they showed up and they're like, oh my god. And I'm like, please. But during that event, I stopped and I was looking at them, and I just, in a flash, I pondered on the last 4 years. When I first met them, how tiny they looked. I mean, everyone changes. I too have changed, but I just remembered how tiny they were, how small, almost naive they were. And 4 years down the line, they were standing shoulder to shoulder with me, almost going and we're like, he's my uncle, and we're laughing. And then I looked at one of them, and then I told her, I said, I can imagine what it was when I first met you 4 years ago, because that was not a long time. You were just so little. And then she laughed. And as soon as I said that, standing right behind me was my teacher from almost the same class. So I had my maths teacher from GSS 1 attended the event. And as if planned, because I don't see why, but that was planned. She was standing right behind me. And as soon as I said it, and that child laughed. I just turned and I saw her, and she laughed. And then she laughed and said, interesting. And I said, no, sorry ma. And then I apologized to her. She said, no, you don't have to apologize. And I said, this is really interesting. Because while I was explaining to a child who I had taught 4 years ago that she was little when I taught her, there is me who was taught by someone, and the someone just being right behind me. It was an interesting sight. And then when I looked at her, I smiled and I said, ma, I got the message. She didn't understand what I meant. Well, I said, ma, I got the message. And then she said, very good. I laughed over the event, but when I got home, in a flash of thought, I thought about something. And then just yesterday, the thought came back into my head. And I think the best place to air that thought is with you guys. Because you have become my favorite people to talk to. There are two thoughts. One, There is something humbling when you understand that no one is a master really at anything. Because at some point, before you became a master, you were once a student. Or better still, I'll put it this way. No matter how good a person is, when they stand before their teacher, they are just a student. No matter how good you are at something, when you stand before the person who taught you, you are just someone who was taught. It should be humbling because it devoids us of this I got everything I have by myself mentality, and also this I am who I am simply because of what I did. Because there is such a thing as arriving at the corridors of opportunities and success in life that makes us think that we somehow got the things we got simply because we were better or we were good enough. It devoids the idea of you being a student. You were once taught. You were taught by someone. That means whenever you stand beside whoever you were taught, whoever taught you or whoever you were taught by, it should put in you an idea that however high the people who I am teaching or people who are below me, however high they estimate me, I am also very low in the sight of someone. So essentially, I'm not really what people think I am, as much as they think I'm a master. I'm just a student who has now gotten the opportunity to teach others. Because we go through life with I have gotten their mindset. I'm here, arrived. And as soon as we arrive at the corridors of fame, success, power, influence, name it, leadership, something in our eyes constantly tell us that we have done all the work to get here. But it's just very interesting that no matter how much work you put in, if you cannot recognize the fact that you were at one point under the feet of someone sitting to learn from them, you really haven't arrived. It kills the idea of us just being a high-placed person in the society and then telling ourselves that everything that we are and that we have, we worked our backs to get it. You were taught. You were taught. That means no matter how highly your students now look at you, and I don't mean students in the concept of a classroom teacher, that's my context, but no matter how highly the people who are below you look at you, and this could be people who are below you, they could be your colleagues, they could be people who you have something that they do not have, that are looking to learn from you or looking to earn from you. No matter how highly they look at you, you must constantly tell yourself that as long as there exists somebody in life who makes me look like the people who are learning from me, then I am not so high. I am not so high. If you are a wealthy person who has all of the money on earth, and there is this someone who taught you how to make money, and then now there are people who you are teaching, as far as the person who taught you exists, it should rid you of the mindset of, you know what, I've worked hard for this so I can get it. I just think that's how it works. It should calm you down. Because in every single situation that I think of it, we are not all masters, we are all students. And being a master it's a dream that you should only live in the dream world. You should never bring into your reality. Because like I like to tell myself, with high possessions and positions comes the ability to overestimate your self-worth. you start to see all that you have as a function of all that you've done. And then it devoids you of the fact that someone gave you an opportunity to try. So you should respect them and respect that opportunity. So essentially, I just used the word and my friend is going to kill me. Essentially, there is such a thing as us being seen highly in the eyes of the people who we teach. But there's such a thing as seeing yourself as just the right amount. Not so much as to think that you are way too good because you have people who are learning from you. And not so little as to always see yourself as a student as never as a person who can teach others. That's a balance. And I think that balance is necessary. The second thing I thought about is this. The idea that teaching is sacrifice. I spoke of my maths teacher who stood behind me. It's interesting to note that my maths teacher taught me more than 10 years ago, more than a decade ago. Why that is interesting? I think of the fact that there could have been a lot of other things she would have done with her life. And she chose, you know what? Let me teach. I say this every time because I constantly look at myself and I tell myself, what then is the end if the people who you teach become better than you? What then is the end? But then I remember, like the goal of every parent, your goal is that the person who you paved the way for continues to pave the way for others. It's like a relay race. The person who starts the race is hoping that the person who picks the baton from him continues the journey so that in the end we all win. Teaching is sacrifice. And I don't just mean teaching in the concept of the classroom. Teaching in every single way is sacrifice. It means somebody is putting down his ambition and his ego to see that someone else gets the job done, or someone else pushes further, or someone else strives at a point where they become better. Sometimes it happens that the people who we teach eventually always exceed us in performance. But you have to honestly tell yourself that I'm not doing this simply because I want to make a name for myself. That's good if you can make a name for yourself, but that's never the goal. It's sacrifice. If I'm taking this line of life, not just a line of profession, but if I'm taking this line of life, I'm essentially telling myself that, you know what, I'm going to keep it down so others can move forward. It's a good thing to tell yourself, especially when you consider the fact that we are in a world that is so self-absorbed. We are selfish, we are self-centered, we are self-absorbed. It's just a world that reeks of self. Everyone wants to strive, for others. They want to do better for others, if only to benefit them. If not, they are doing for themselves. But then, you take a line and say, you know what, I'm going to teach you a business, for instance. I'm going to teach you this. In your head lies the thought, if I teach them this, they have the tendency of being better than I do. Than I am, rather. And you tell yourself, that doesn't matter. I'm going to teach them other ways. That's sacrifice. And honestly, if you've done that, I think you've done what humanity desperately needs but never know. Humanity was built on the annals of sacrifice. We're built on the labors of sacrifice. And if humanity is going to continue and not end in chaos, we are going to have much more people sacrifice themselves. Better, we are going to need more people sacrifice themselves. In a world that is full of selfish ambitions, pride, ego, just everyone striving to be at the top. And when we all know we can't all be at the top, we need more people to sacrifice themselves. And I don't mean sacrifice themselves like modern, yeah. I mean sacrifice themselves like tell yourself, some of us have to start the journey and rest so that other people can rise to the point where they will be recognized. Because at the end of the day, people only recognize the top but never recognize the bottom. It just makes perfect sense, and that's the reason why the tip of the iceberg is much more popular than the bottom part of the iceberg. But what makes the iceberg is not just the tip, it's everything in between. Thank you for sticking with me on this episode, and until I come your way next time, my name is Talking Joe.